Ryan Hall stared up at the fan hanging above him. Round and round the blades went, pushing the most heavenly breeze down onto Ryan and the human blanket that laid on top of him. Ryan had met the heavy meat sack on Grindr just a few hours ago. The pair exchanged a total of 20 or so messages between both the app and texting. The cliché bulge and abs photo was all it took to get Mr. Torso over. And from there, clothes began to fall, and hands began to roam as they stumbled into bed. Typically, Ryan didn't like having sex in his own bed. If done right, most hookups left Ryan too tired to do anything besides wishing his bed buddy farewell and crashing in his bed. But tonight, Ryan had been sloppy. He'd forgotten all the rules he'd set for himself and allowed this one to make it to the bedroom. Probably because he looked like. Ryan's thoughts were cut short when Mr. Torso began to shift on top of him. Good morning, the sandy-haired man said, as he placed his hands on Ryan's chest and looked at him. Ryan looked out of the window to find the stars still twinkling in the night sky, but Mr. Torso wasn't wrong. It was 1 a.m. You were incredible last night, Mr. Torso said with a smile. As were you. Ryan smirked. Mr. Torso smiled, and Ryan couldn't help but place a finger in the little dimple in his right cheek. Now that the alcohol had worn off, Ryan was able to appreciate how cute the sandy-haired man was. His eyes were greener than freshly cut grass, and his jawline was sharp enough to cut diamonds. I had fun last night, said Mr. Torso with a smile. Ryan couldn't help but chuckle as images of the pair stumbling through his condo, clothes falling as they kept each other upright long enough to make it to bed, flashed in his mind. As did I, Ryan said, chuckling. Mr. Torso opened his mouth to say something when he was interrupted by his phone. The Penguin's Earth Angel sounded, and with the way Mr. Torso jumped, you'd think he saw a ghost. With his bare ass on full display, the man shifted through the mess of clothes on the floor until he found his pants, and then his phone. Hey, he said as he slipped into the bathroom and closed the door behind him. Maybe Ryan should have had this little rendezvous over at a hotel. The last thing he needed was an angry girlfriend or wife causing a scene outside his place, and trying to break down his door rather than facing their pig of a man. Thanks to toxic masculinity, homophobia, and horrible luck on Ryan's end, Ryan often found himself in the most fucked situations because of cowardly men whose sexualities weren't as rigid as they claimed them to be. Ryan pulled on his clothes as Mr. Torso mumbled in the bathroom, probably feeding his wife some bullshit line about how he was working late or was away on a business trip. The mumbling continued for some time before the bathroom door opened, and Mr. Torso stepped out of the bathroom in all his glory. All right, Bubby, let Daddy call Mommy and I'll call you back, he said before saying goodbye and ending the call. Mr. Torso huffed before laughing and placing a hand over his chest. Sorry, my little guy's away at sleepaway camp for the first time, and he's having a bit of trouble. He laughed. Oh, so Mr. Torso has a kid, and he's not hiding it, interesting. It's all right, said Ryan. Ryan had remembered his time away at camp when he was a child. Though it wasn't overnight, that was the longest time he'd ever been away from his parents, and Ryan did cry a time or two that day. Mr. Torso gave a quick thanks before his phone went off. Honey. Yes, Jake forgot Mr. Jones, he said, pressing the phone to his ear. Mr. Torso listened for a moment before shaking his head. No, I'm still with my date, we overslept, he said. Mr. Torso silently excused himself before slipping back into the bathroom and closing the door. So Mrs. Torso was aware of her husband's activities. Interesting. Mr. Torso spoke to his wife for some time before the call ended, and he exited the bathroom. So you're married? Ryan heard himself say. Shit, he hadn't meant to say that. Mr. Torso paused, an eyebrow cocking up. Yeah, I put it in my bio. But you're like the third guy to be surprised by this information. So I'm starting to think bio reading isn't a thing people do on Grindr, he said with a laugh. Ryan smiled sheepishly. I might have gotten a little distracted, he said, looking down at Mr. Torso's cock. The man smiled wickedly. I see, he said, approaching the bed. After yet another wild ride, Ryan and Mr. Torso, or Josh, as he introduced himself, got to talking, and Ryan learned that Josh and his wife, Marissa, were both bisexuals and had recently opened up their marriage to explore their sexualities. The men talked for a little longer, getting to know one another, and though Ryan swore he would never date any of his gender hookups, he decided to take Josh up on his offer to treat him to lunch. And so, after one more round, the men got dressed and headed out the door. Thanks for watching. If you've made it to the end of this video, and you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to hear more LGBT stories from the Royal Blue Network. Then subscribe. And if you're looking to do a little bit of reading, then check out the royalbluenetwork.lgbt, where you can read this story, along with countless other trans, non-binary, and women-loving women stories.